Got Your Eers On is brought to you by Tactical Legion Knives. Live from the campus of Tom Radio, under the direction of Guido, Scoot, and Johnson, it's the pride of podcasting. It's Got Your Eers On.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Got Your Eers On. Guido here with you. We're taking a break this week, guys, giving you another best of show to listen to while we take a breather after a long football and basketball back-to-back seasons. Not much happened this week, but we'll be back next week. We'll have a lot to talk about. We'll also talk a little bit about that John Means no-hitter, maybe a little bit about the TBT team and Sags coming back to join John Flowers and the guys, and whatever else happens in the next week. So thanks for listening. Enjoy this week. We're going to do a little flashback to the beginning of basketball season when Brent Solheim joined us, and we talked a little bit about our hopes and dreams for the 2020-2021 WVU Mountaineers basketball team. And we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks with our hopes and dreams for next year's team. So don't forget, find us online. Look for us on Instagram, on Twitter. You can find us at Got Your Ears. Also search for us on Facebook. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back next week with another show. Enjoy this. All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Got Your Ears On. Guido here along with Scoot.
Yo.
And Johnson.
Special guest in the house, Guido.
Special guest in the house. So excited. Going to be with us off and on this season during basketball. Number 45 from West Virginia University, played on the 1998 Sweet 16 or 1998 Sweet 16 team. Brent Solheim. Thanks for joining us, Brent.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you guys.
Yeah,
big fan of the show.
I don't know if I'd say it's a pleasure.
Be a pleasure.
I don't know. That might be a stretch.
He's here. Let's see if it's a pleasure later.
I've enjoyed listening to your guys' take on football and everything. It's certainly a fun show, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, this will be great. So everybody knows you, Brent. You were a 4-year starter really at WVU in the mid '90s and played on that awesome team in '98, that sort of surprise Sweet 16 team, if you will. I mean, I'm sure you guys went into it knowing you could get that far, but for all of us as fans, it was definitely a surprise to see you guys go that deep.
Yeah, well, this was the first time. 1998 was the first time WVU made it to the Sweet 16 in something like 30 years. It had been a really long time, so I don't think anyone looked at us and thought, oh yeah, this team can make a nice run into the tournament when the season started, but we did get some big wins. We beat I believe they were number 6 rated UConn team at home, and we had some other really big wins that year. And it was fun. It was a great run. It was only three games in, but my goodness, that was definitely the highlight of my college career.
Brent, how? Let me ask really quick. I'm trying to remember how many seasons of Big East play did you get in before you graduated? You're so early. Your first season, we were still A10, right?
You're right. So the first season we played in the Atlantic 10, and my sophomore year was the first year that WVU joined the Big East.
Okay.
And that first season, your freshman season, and were you a true freshman or did you redshirt again?
No, I was a true freshman. I came in and West Virginia was rebuilding that year. They had a senior dominant team the year before, and it was pretty much wide open. I want to say we had 6 guys who had never played college basketball before my freshman year. And I was lucky enough to be one of 2 guys that started every single game that 94-95 season.
Now, was the other one Damian Owens?
No, I think it was Zane Shaw. Damian might have had an injury or something and didn't start. It was only like a game or 2, but I think Zane and I were the only 2 that started every game that first year.
And then that 98 team, going back to it, which I'm sure, you guys have to talk about a lot. You guys have all stayed close to through the years, and that team, every so often they'll do something at the Coliseum to remember that team. You still talk to all those guys?
Oh yeah. A lot of the communication now is like through even like Facebook and even just text messaging. So one thing that, Huggins was actually involved with that Sweet 16 from a perspective as we beat them when he was coaching Cincinnati. But when he came back to West Virginia, he did a really nice job of, inviting all of the alumni back, even guys that he didn't coach, to come back. And now we have an alumni weekend every single year where we all meet Friday night and have dinner, have a few drinks. Saturday, we'll walk out on the court at halftime, get something to eat after the game as well. And that has allowed a lot of the former alumni to meet a lot of players that they never knew before. When I came to WVU, I didn't know any of the players. I'm from Minnesota. So, but ever since I played, 98 was my last season, I've been a fan of WVU from the 99 season through now. So I've watched all of the players now, but I would have never had the opportunity to meet any of the older players had it not been for Huggins and bringing back and having the alumni weekend and all that. So it's been a lot of fun to meet all of those guys, and I see a lot of my teammates as well.
And I bet that's pretty neat for your son to see Dad go out, walk across the floor at the Coliseum.
There's been a few times where it was just him and I coming to the game, and I'm not going to leave a 5-year-old up in the stands by himself. So he actually got to walk out on the carpet with me. So he really thought he was something.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it was neat.
Well, we, the cool thing about having you on this year with us, and we're super excited about it, is the fact that, it's somebody to help us break down basketball, talk more about basketball. And I'm sure along the way you'll have stories that'll sort of interject from your career as to, kind of reflect on what's happening with the players now. So I don't want it to feel like we're interrogating you all the time.
No, all good.
This year we're going to kind of break down this basketball team that, for WVU that has a ton of hype coming into this season. And it starts with the fact that, we've got so many guys, so many starters returning. I mean, we lose Logan Rout, Chase Harler, Jermaine Haley, all seniors that left last year, and then Brandon Napper transfers out. But you have a team like this that has returned so many seniors. Guys, what do you think Johnson needs to happen with this team in order for them to be successful based off of last year, which was also pretty successful?
Yeah, well, my first concern is that the season itself needs to happen. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I know we're going to dig in here, but my fear right now, especially Guido, as you see more of these teams, we now just, I think just most recently, Creighton is now out of the, as Scoot would say, the big bad boys crossover.
The bad boys
mowers,
crossover classic.
Yeah,
crossing over somewhere through the classic.
So it's like I'm starting to just get worried that is this tournament even gonna happen? I think it was interesting earlier this week that I think Shane Lyons in the athletic department actually doubled down. I think Huggs was even in on that too, saying no, we're definitely participating. And the tone now, it's interesting that the tone now has been like, well, it went from there's going to be some heavy hitters to really get a sense of, talent wise, performance wise, how we're faring. And now we're kind of like the big, or at least I feel like we're now kind of the big dog, the big name in the tournament. So that's maybe a little bit different.
And I think the interesting thing about it, looking at, they actually did a little bit of, I actually saw a little article online about it. So this tournament, this place they're playing, the Stanford Pentagon,
the
whatever
Pentagon,
it's called, it's like literally out in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of a cornfield. And then, I'm not exaggerating. Like there is like cornfield, and then there's a stadium.
So you feel like they're well insulated from COVID.
Not only that, but the hotel that they're staying at, like you can throw a rock from the stadium and hit it. So and it's right next to the airport. So I feel like West Virginia is looking at it as all right. This is super kind of bubble-eyed.
So should be able to control the environment type of thing.
But I'm with you. I mean, Scooty, and we kind of were talking about this earlier. It's like now we've gone from, we were playing Duke and we had Ohio State and we had Texas A&M and Creighton.
I guess if I have an issue, my biggest concern is, let's say we play some games. I don't want us to have a great season and then people to think, well, we need to put an asterisk with the 2021 season because we may have had to reschedule a game or a game gets canceled, or because I think we're going to have some of that. Sure. So that's my big concern, is that I think it will cheapen how good this team actually is. And I don't want that to happen because I do think it's a what looks to be a pretty deep team.
Well, and Brent, do you think, like we've been talking early on leading up to this, like I think originally the guys were supposed to head to the Bahamas and play, the
Battle of Atlantis.
Yeah, right. So, and they were going to play some, Duke. I think, who else was originally in, guys?
Ohio State was in there.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you, I don't know if you have, I remember, you guys traveling to like Puerto Rico and stuff, for tournaments. I guess do you think the motivation is still there when
Yeah, are you excited to go to South Dakota? Seriously?
Honestly, these guys, I would expect them to be not as excited. I mean, you're originally going to the Battle of Atlantis, and you're playing Duke, you're playing Ohio State. I mean, if you come out of there with winning the tournament, man, you have a ton of momentum, and you are already on the national stage. Now, if you go out to, like, we went to the San Juan Shootout in '98, and one of the games was against Puerto Rico Mayagüez. And coach got on us about them that said that their players weren't even there for basketball. They were there for engineering. So anyway, so these guys are now going out to South Dakota. You know, let's say they beat the Jackrabbits and they beat a couple other mid-major teams. You know, they walk away with that title. How much momentum does that really give us? Probably not that much.
Yeah, or not nearly what it would have. Yeah.
Well, I made a bold statement saying that had we won the Battle for Atlantis with all of the original teams, I think we're preseason 15. I think we are flirting between 5 and 10, I think, after that tournament, if we were to win the tournament.
So let me ask you this. What happens if WVU goes out to South Dakota and plays in the Bad Boys Big Mower?
Crossing over classic.
Yeah.
Mower.
And what happens if they don't win this tournament? What happens if they drop a game?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though, right? I mean, then you feel like, oh, geez, we probably should have came away with that championship. I agree. Then it's almost a downer, like a demotivator.
So there's so much hype for this team, though, that what worries me a little bit about a tournament like this is they believe the hype and they go in and don't need to come out 100%. And like we were talking about earlier, if you don't put away a mid-major team early on, they start to believe that they can beat you. And that becomes you see that sometimes in the NCAA tournament where, you know, a 15 team plays a 2 and they don't come out playing hard.
Vermont always wins.
Exactly.
Like that.
So that's one thing I worry about with a team like this is, hey, they've seen the hype all summer. They've seen the hype all preseason. They come in and they're going to walk all over everyone. And that does not happen with a mid-major team that especially is playing a Power 5 team. And it's might be their biggest game of their season. So they're going to come in playing like it's the national title game. And if we're not up for it, I could see us taking an L.
Yeah. And I think, Guido, maybe to answer your question too, I think coming in, we've heard about some big improvements from some players. I think we've got expectations, obviously, for Oscar, but we've also been hearing, you know, chirping about like Culver being really the leader. And then people like Taz Sherman and I think, who is it?
McNeil.
Josh. Yeah. Well, Josh likes to call him
Shot Robot,
which I like. You know, we've heard a lot of good things about improved shooting. So my mind, I guess to answer your question, one of the things I'm anxious to see is, has that outside shooting really improved? I would love that to be the case.
One thing about shooters coming off of the bench that I've seen, when you come off the bench, you're cold. It's tough to get right into the game and just start knocking down threes. You got to run up and down the court a little bit. You got to get a break of sweat. And it's tough for shooters to come out, immediately hit shots, or, you know, go back to the bench if you're relieving someone for a couple minutes. So if you got guys like Sean McNeil and Taz Sherman that are getting more minutes this year, I expect their field goal percentage to go up significantly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think it'll also be interesting this year. So one of the things off of last year's team and losing the fact that we had, you know, Jermaine Haley, who I know wasn't standout and always a starter, but he led the team last year in shot percentage. So it's one of those things where you lose a guy who made his shots when he needed to make his shots. We got to make sure that we got somebody picking those up.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think too, that's funny to hear you say that, because it was an interesting year for Haley because he didn't always start, but he was largely, he might even come in and still lead in points, especially points off the bench. So that's interesting to see how we shuffle guys around this year and kind of make up for some of that play.
He was such an interesting guy in that he was 6'7", and as a point guard, he's a tough matchup, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it'll be interesting. And then, so what do we think about the new guys that we're going to see this year? I mean, the names that we're hearing a lot of, you know, the Jalen Bridges, the Isaiah Cottrells, the Kedrian Johnsons, like, you know, those three guys, you know, I think are going to see more time on the court and how do they fit into this team, this year?
Hey, that's a good question, because these guys that are coming in, they have to take time from somebody. So whose time do they take? Isaiah Cottrell, okay? He's 6'10", he's a freshman, 240, big body. What, is he going to take half of Oscar's time? I don't think so.
Right.
So you got, if Culver, sometimes he gets in the doghouse, now we can substitute Isaiah in for him if he does. But, Culver and Oscar are so, so much potential. They're so good. If they're on their game, I don't know how much time Cottrell takes from them.
Do you think maybe he hurts Gabe Osaboyan's time, Cottrell?
If he hurt anyone's time, that's who I would think. That's where we'd see some of his time. Gabe is 6'7".
Gabe kind of reminds me of a Cam Thurman.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But Isaiah is such he's 3 inches taller. At times, Gabe can be undersized inside, but he plays hard. He's a decent athlete. But you got a guy coming in that's Cottrell. I think he's going to take some of Gabe's minutes for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch because there will be some shuffling. I think, what we love about Gabe, though, is his defense. I guess we'll see if I think if Cottrell's able to score the ball, then, that's going to be an interesting shuffle.
Right. Gabe's not much of a scorer, so anything you get out of Gabe.
Watching Gabe play defense is just so much fun. I mean, the kid's got arms for days. Like,
right.
He's got
and he's got a motor. I mean, he doesn't stop. So
I'm interested to see in this crossover classic, the rotations that Huggins starts with. Because, I've been looking at this roster now for 2 weeks, and I'm not sure I'm sold on what the starting five is. I think we can probably name 3 really easily, but, are we going to see Taz in there more for starters? Where is, are we going to have what we had last year with Jordan McCabe, where it's like he's there and he's not there? Or is, has Deuce taken that role over?
Brent, do you think we'll go back to, does it determine, what will determine that is if we go back to more like a press Virginia, or do you think because we went away from it, do you think we just didn't have the guys?
I think we're so big this year that it's going to be tough to put a full court press on with Oscar and Culver out at the same time. Or maybe you could have Oscar at the front of a diamond press and have Culver go back. I could see that happening, but I don't think there's any way Miles McBride comes off the bench this year. He's in my opinion, a lot of the times last year, the game would come down to the end, and he would be the guy that everyone would look to make something happen, to take that mid-range shot or to take it to the hoop. I don't think there's any way he's coming off the bench this year. So I don't think it's a matter of press Virginia versus drop back. I think it's Miles McBride, in my opinion, was so dominant at times last year, and with a full season under his belt and a full offseason of work, I don't think he's coming off the bench, and I think he's going to get as many minutes as anyone does.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. If what we've been hearing, lives up to the rumors, live up to the truth, I don't know how you're going to get him off the court. He seems like someone that's going to get a bulk of the minutes at the guards. I guess it'll be interesting to see, like back to Guido's question, is between Sherman and Shot Robot, who do we think is playing a lot of the two? I think you've got to say McBride's probably man in the one in most cases, right?
Oh yeah. I think if Jordan comes in and Miles is in at the same time, I think you might see Miles at a 2 spot. But okay. I think Miles is bringing the ball up the court, and McNeil or Taz, that's a dogfight to see who gets the Lions' amount of points, and it may be. They can both at times be streaky shooters. So it might be, they might rotate time starting depending on who's got the hot hand during the season. It's so hard to judge there.
And then what do you think about, I think Emmett Matthews, of course, is the 3, but do you see Jalen Bridges maybe sliding in when he's out?
That's another tough one. So, I definitely would lean towards Matthews starting. Jalen Bridges, it's tough to come in as a freshman and start over someone who's, Emmett Matthews at times is phenomenal, and other times, he's a
ghost.
Yeah, he's a ghost. So Jalen Bridges, when Matthews starts becoming, invisible on the court, I think we'll have Bridges come in and substitute for him. And Bridges is the guy that I'm most excited about watching this year to see. He's from Fairmont, the same town I live in right now, and I got to see him play some in high school, and I'm really excited to see what he can do out there in the Big 12.
I'm not sure if you know this. I was going to say Guido played side by side Jalen's dad.
Uh-huh.
So we're thinking that maybe Jalen's dad showed some old videos of Guido kind of showing Jalen how to play.
That's a good possibility.
Or how to pull up to a table. One of the two.
Well, Guido, what do you think? So we're obviously talking about this kickoff tournament, and we'll obviously be talking about this week to week with Brent too on basketball previews. But I mean, Ken Palm pretty much packed is the top 10 with the Big 12 conference. I mean, I think 4 of the top 9 were
five of the top 10. Okay. 5 teams in the Big 12 are in Ken Palm's top 10.
I mean, that's crazy.
Say what you want. If you look at the AP poll, it's completely different. I mean, we have 5 in the top 20 in the AP poll.
Okay.
But Ken Palm is, it's all stats, numbers. It's for you and me, Johnson. It's geeky stuff.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw that, I just was like, wow, talk about an eyebrow raise. I mean, it's going to be a battle to say the least in this conference.
Well, and I think that's what makes it, and I mean, this is a typical WVU fan comment right here, but that's what makes it so frustrating in some ways, because this is a phenomenal team WVU has this year, and Baylor, I mean, Kansas always has a team that they've given free shoes to, but Baylor and Kansas and Texas Tech all have really good teams this year in the Big 12. Right. So I think it makes it, that even more, gives me a little more agita than normal, just because we have such a good team.
I think I saw Kansas top returning scorer average 9 points per game last year. Yet they're predicted in the top, they're projected to start in the top 5.
Third? Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Marcus Garrett, who is, I guess, the National Defensive Player of the Year.
Right, yep.
I think he's the returning scorer with the most points, with 9.9 or something.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me that they would even project them to be, I mean, they're going to have to score points somewhere.
But I think last year was even, looking back at it, I think last year was even one of those things where you go, how much does all of this really matter at this point, especially in a season like this where it's, what do we have for, what's really going to show up for teams and players, and what games are we actually going to have? And, when does a player get tested positive and then you lose, Oscar for 3 games because of that? Like, those are all things that are so weird this year.
Yeah. Don't even say that.
Do you lose Oscar? Do you lose the whole team? I mean, what is that?
Right.
Yeah. Then you have contact tracing and the whole 9 yards. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's probably going to play a big factor. Hopefully not too big of a factor, but I guess, that's something we'll be monitoring.
I think what's interesting, and, looking at last year's team, and you look at like all Huggins teams. So like we were the number 1 or one of the top rated, we were number 1 in offensive rebounding last year. We were one of the top, rebounding teams in the country last year. And then you flip that and you look at things like free throw percentage, and we were like near the bottom of D1 in free throw percentage. And you think about a Huggins coach team in general, that's kind of, the direction that they usually have.
Right.
But do the players that we have this year really kind of help out and push that free throw percentage back up with some better shooters this year? Like
poor Derek Culver. I felt like the poor guy. He was always at the line, and there was,
well, and then so much talk about how much success, like he was under the microscope at the foul line the whole season, I felt like.
I mean, he's always at the line. He gets fouled all the time, and I feel bad for the guy. But I guess,
Guido, you made the note that we were 333rd out of 347 D1 teams in free throw percentage. So one would think that
64% free throw percentage is rough.
One would think we could improve. Yeah.
Brent, in a typical season, how much focus does a coach put on free throws?
Well, one thing about it is when you got guys like Culver that are bangers inside and not great shooters, they are going to get to the line a lot, and they're not going to make, 90% of them. You get guys like Taz in there and McNeil that are attacking the basket. Now, those guys are more of spot shooters, but you got to get your guards, you got to get your shooters shooting more free throws to get that percentage up there. I don't see Culver all of a sudden becoming a 90% free throw shooter.
At times it's rough. It's rough to watch.
It is. But I mean, he can certainly improve, but you're not going to see a 15% improvement in free throw percentage.
Looking at this team, for you guys, like what is it that you feel like, at least in this mid-major classic that we're playing, I'm going to just rename it the mid-major classic. Us in the mid-majors. What is it that we need to see in these 3 games that we're going to play on this week that will make you feel good about this or feel comfortable about this team?
Well, they got to control the pace. They got to control the tempo. We can't let those guys come up, set up their offense, get the shots they want. I would probably start out pressing these teams, put in some type of trapping half-court offense where we are, forcing them to get uncomfortable, or maybe even going in-your-face man-to-man like we see a lot of Huggins teams doing. I mean, we see Huggins teams from when he first started at WVU. I noticed we went from a very set offense with Beeline taking outside shots to a much more aggressive man-to-man defense. So I think what we're going to see is we're going to get in these guys' face and make them uncomfortable. And I think that's what you need to do against most mid-major teams is get in their grill. Most of the times, and I'm generalizing some here, most of the times the Pac or the Power 5 teams are a little bit more athletic, a little bit bigger, a little stronger, a little faster, but fundamentally they're not that different. But I do think the bigger schools have a little bit better athletes, and that's what really makes the difference.
Do you think Coach Huggins coaches more of a vintage Big East style?
Oh, I absolutely do.
I mean, I just think compared to even maybe the rest of the Big 12, I still think Coach Huggins kind of has that Big East mentality. A couple of big man, throw it to the big man, and let him do some work.
I absolutely agree with that. And Huggins teams, he kind of gets a rap as coaching overly aggressive teams. And that's the kind of basketball I really like to see. And sometimes it comes down to the officiating where if they're allowing a little bit of that contact, we have a massive advantage. But if they're calling every little touch foul, that gives an advantage possibly to the other team. So I've always enjoyed watching Huggins teams play and that style of play. And I would have loved to have played that same style back, in 1998, where we did have some more physical play. But I love Huggins as a coach, and you'll never hear me say anything bad about him. But it is an old school Big East style of basketball, and that's just what I enjoy watching.
Yeah, and I think too, Guido, for me, like to kind of follow on what Brent's saying, because of that, I think how many times over the last, I know we talked about it last season, even the season before that, how many times do we look at a box score and we say, wow, how is it possible that we got up 22 more shots and we lost by like 6 points or something? So I think for me, that's why I brought up, the stuff we're hearing about like McNeil, Taz, just shooting in general being improved. I would love to just see us hit not even some giant, leap in shooting percentage, just knock down when we get good open shots, knock them down, finish at the rim, stuff like that, so that we're not having that conversation.
Yeah, I agree with you, Scott. If you look at our 3-point percentage from last year, Taz led it with 33.3%. So he's making 1 out of every 3 shots. And right there with him was McNeil at .330. So those guys are both, hitting 1 out of 3 shots. And we're talking about them like they're our best shooters by far. Those guys, when they start getting more time, I'm anticipating their 3-point percentage to go up. I don't want to say significantly, but to go up. And some of the other guys certainly should go up as well.
Yeah, it just seems like if we could just hit, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying like some huge leap, but even just seeing progress there, I think that would be such a big difference.
I couldn't agree more. Jordan McCabe, starting point guard, didn't even shoot 21% from 3 points. We got to have better shooting than that.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, Brent, is there a player on this year's team that reminds you of you at all?
I would probably say if you held a gun to my head and said this, one person, I would probably say Gabe. A guy who doesn't have the athletic talent as like an Oscar or a Culver, but works hard, does what he can on defense, is scrappy. Probably that would be the guy that I would say I was most like.
Scoot, who would you feel like you're most like?
Well, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked. Intramurals, I think the teams I would have played against would say I was very similar to Oscar, minus the explosive dunking, defense, jumping.
But outside of that,
he's probably a better passer.
Otherwise, though.
We're very similar.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oscar, by the way, named to the Naismith watch list recently, which I think is super exciting. So, Guido, back to what you were saying. I mean, there is so much hype right now. And I think that's why I'm hoping we get some basketball. I'm hoping we dodge COVID enough, not just WVU, but, college sports in general. We can keep things rolling and at least get, some complement of games in to get some enjoyment. I think that's what makes me nervous, is just the thought that maybe the endeavor gets hijacked by, not being able to play games. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll find out soon. So West Virginia plays on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time in the Bad Boy Mowers Crossover Classic. I did it right that time.
It'd be just so much easier if it was Battle for Mount Rushmore or something.
Battle for Mount Rushmore. As of right now, unless it changes in the next few days, as of recording of this show, we're playing Northern Iowa for our first game.
No, we're playing South Dakota State now.
Oh, did they change it already?
Yes.
No. Oh, wow, geez. See, you can't even keep up with it. They're changing it so much. We're playing some random mid-major on Wednesday, and then they'll continue to play. So they're definitely going to play on Thursday and Friday. It just depends on who wins and who loses.
Look, all you need to know, Scoot: eat turkey, watch basketball. That's all you need.
Eat turkey, watch basketball. ESPN.
I will say this: I am kind of excited to see Memphis. I'm glad Memphis is still in there with Penny Hardaway, and I know that he lost James Wiseman and Precious Achua, but I'm still interested to see how they do, and I know that they're a kind of an up-and-coming team with Penny at the helm.
That's an also receiving votes team, so they're not ranked, but it's an also receiving votes team. So we'll find out. Also, news that came out this week, which was kind of on the depressing end of things, our home opener against Youngstown State was postponed, which essentially will end up being canceled. I don't know if they'll make that game back up. That Youngstown State's having some COVID issues on their team, so they have shut down the basketball operations.
Or they're scared.
Yeah, no, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's
I think you're right though, Guido. About my first thought was that's probably a game that just gets canceled, right? I don't know where you work that back in, unfortunately. So that does stink.
Yeah, SID right now says it's postponed, but I have a feeling that'll be. So that'll make our first game against Georgetown, which, how exciting is that for you, Brent, that they're going to actually be playing a Big East team?
I love it. I absolutely love any of these Big East matchups. I would love to get Georgetown on the schedule regularly. I'd like to have Pitt on the schedule regularly. When I played, the team had Allen Iverson, Othello Harrington, Jahidi White, Jerome Williams. 4 of their 5 starters were future NBA players. And that was some hard-nosed basketball back then. So I'm really, really happy to see us get Georgetown back on the schedule.
Yeah, so that game's on December 6th in D.C. On Fox Sports 1, so also nationally televised too. So that'll be cool. Well, listen, guys, we need to take a quick break. Brent, if you have time, can you hang around for the next segment?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with everybody's favorite game show on a West Virginia University sports podcast, a little game we like to call Bluff the Fluff. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Got Your Eers On. Vortec Knives is a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in high quality steel, fast opening, everyday carrying knives. If you go to vortechknives.com today and use the code GYEO, you get a 25% discount on your entire order. That's Vortech, VORTEK knives.com, a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in fast opening, high quality, everyday carry knives. Vortec Knives. All right, welcome back to Got Your Ears On, Guido, along with Scoot and Johnson and Brent Solheim. So that's awesome. And joining us for Bluff the Fluffs. Don't forget, you can find us on social media. Look for us at Got Your Ears on Instagram and Twitter, and search for us on the Facebook. So, Johnson, last week, Scooty beat you in the Battle of Pickles.
Crushed you.
On Bluff the Fluff.
Yeah, it was bad.
And now you were only up 2 games, 13-11. End of the year's coming.
He's closing the gap.
He's closing the gap, and we're getting close to the end of the year where we pick a champion.
So this is the time where we come with the sports topic that I don't know about.
So here we go. So last week, this week I thought it was just super appropriate to have a little bit of Bluff the Fluffs, West Virginia University sports podcast #1 game show, about our guest, our friend.
Oh boy,
friend of the podcast, Brent Solheim. So these are all questions.
Oh, this is going to be tough.
Rigged. No, this is rigged.
How well do you know?
You went to school with him. I didn't go to school with him. This is rigged.
This is great. I love it already.
Oh, God.
We'll see what happens. As always, before we started, we just want to remind everybody a correct answer is worth 5 points, a steal is worth 10 points, and final bluff is worth 25 points. Before we started, we had a complete and random total flip of the coin, and Johnson, you came out on top. You get to go first.
I love this random coin flip.
It's ridiculous.
Brent, as you can see, none of this is rigged. This is all no rigging whatsoever.
It's definitely rigged.
All right, Johnson, first question. First question is for you.
All right, let's do this.
While at WVU, how many total games did Brent Solheim play in at WVU? Was it 109, 113, 97, or 94?
Oh, God.
Oh, this is tough. I love it when you have these questions that are 4 random yet oddly enough close together choices. The real question is, I wonder if Brent knows the answer to this question, but I think so. Brent was hurt for a period of time too, sprinkled in there. I'm gonna go. I think it's still 100 plus, Guido. So what were my 2 100 plus options?
109 or 103.
I'm gonna go 103.
Sorry, that's incorrect. Scoot for 10 points in the steal.
So this is random, but I feel like at one point Joe Airbear had a lot of games played, and I think at one point he was like the most.
Yeah,
but
well, that
was
whole 5 that he was with, I think.
Yeah, and Pat Beeline as well.
J.D. Collins, all those guys.
Yeah, so
I'm Scoot stalling for the answer.
I'm going to go on the lower end. I'm going to say 97.
It's incorrect, guys. Come on. It was 109.
Wow.
109 games.
Oh, I should have went with I knew it was 100 plus.
Did you know that, Brent? Did you remember?
I did not know the exact number. I know that I played in every single game for 4 years, with the exception of, I want to say 6 or 8 games my sophomore year when I had a broken hand.
Yeah.
So your sophomore year, you played in 19 games. Yeah, so you had a little downtime there. So nobody gets any points on this one, guys. Like, come on. I mean, I thought this was kind of embarrassing. He's right here. You can't answer these questions.
I know it's that was bad.
All right, Scoot. This one is to you. Brent ranks 4th all time at his high school, John Marshall Rockets, in scoring with 1,272 points. Currently ranks 4th. What current Duke Blue Devil is 1st all time at John Marshall with 3,819 points? Is it DJ Stewart, Matthew Hurt, Jalen Johnson, or Wendell Moore? Current Duke.
Okay, current Duke player. Now, how many points did you say he scored?
The current Duke, number 1, 3,819.
Can I just say that is a ridiculous amount of points. That's a crazy amount of points. I mean, how many shots are you taking a game to get that many points? That's a lot.
Nobody else gets any shots.
I mean, you got to average. I don't even want to think about how much you have to average. But anyway, I don't know his first name again, but I think it's Hurt is his last name.
That's correct. Matthew Hurt.
All right, so hey, I got to jump in here with some information. So I held the school record for 19 years. And then there was a guard came up. He played, I want to say 4 years. I played 3 years, 10th, 11th, 12th. But then Matthew his older brother then beat this other guard to hold a position, and then Matthew beat his brother, a couple years after that. But Matthew started playing varsity in 8th grade.
Ooh,
So that's something,
okay.
in West Virginia here, you can only play 4 years of a varsity sport. In Minnesota, if you're a dominant athlete, you can play varsity as an 8th grader. So
So have you petitioned your high school to put a big asterisk beside that?
I have not. No, I probably should, but I have not. No.
I mean, I feel like there's some athletic director that needs a letter. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Like, I didn't know that anyone did that. Like, you could play in 8th grade. I didn't know that.
That's still a ridiculous amount of points.
No, man,
though.
you guys, I would go home and see him. I'd be home for Christmas and go watch him play. And I remember his 9th or 10th grade year, I posted on Facebook, there's a kid that goes to my high school that's good enough to play for Duke or Kentucky. And, a couple people DM'd me. I'm friends with some other college coaches in the SEC, and they're like, hey, who are you talking about? And then he did eventually end up going to Duke. So a little funny story there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
All right, Scoot gets the question right and takes a 5-0 lead over you, Johnson. And this next question is back to you. While in high school, I don't know if you know this, Brent was also a punter on his high school football team. What was his punt average his senior year at John Marshall?
This is ridiculous that you have these stats. Where are you getting these stats?
That's what I want to know.
Listen, man, you can find anything on the internet. You look hard enough. Was it 39 yards, 44 yards, 49 yards, or 37 yards?
Average.
Season average.
God, this is tough. I'm going to go
His senior year.
44 yards.
That's correct. It's also that 44 yards, Brent. I don't know if you know this. Third, he ranks third all time for a season average in Minnesota high school football with that 44 yards.
I did not. I remember 44-1 was my average. I did not know that was third all time, but I was first team AP All-State punter. No, I can't believe you found that online.
It's on a couple. It's on a couple.
Left foot or right foot, Brent?
Right foot.
Right foot.
Yep.
I could probably do either.
Scoot, could you out punt him?
44. That's tough. My left foot would be better at it. I could do right foot. I think left foot I've got more power. So if I were to come close, it would have to be with my left.
Hey, playing in Minnesota too, some of those balls late in the season are not very friendly.
They're not friendly.
They're not foot friendly.
No.
They didn't have a ball warmer over on the sidelines for you?
No.
So that we're all tied up there. Correct answer by Johnson ties us up 5 apiece. And Scoot, this question is back to you. While playing Florida State in the 97 NIT quarterfinal, Brent was called with an intentional foul against the future Washington Wizard and Dallas Maverick player. Who was that player? Was it James Collins, Randall Jackson, Bob Sura, or Charlie Ward?
That's a good question. I don't know if I know the answer to that. Who are the first 3?
Randall Jackson, James Collins, and Bob Sura.
I'm going to go with Randall Jackson.
That's the correct answer. And I the moment I asked that question, I knew that Brent remembered that intentional foul. So.
Yeah, I actually do. I had 2 intentional fouls in all of college, and thank you for reminding me of that one.
I apologize.
No, all good. 2 that I remember.
Okay.
No, you weren't happy about that call, I guess is what you're saying.
No, I think it might have been a breakaway, and I think it might have been like one that either sealed the game or it was already
buckets.
over at that point.
I think if I remember correctly, I'd have to go back. I think you had a good game that game.
I honestly don't remember.
I think you did.
That's one of the games that I do not remember.
All right, so Scoot wins, gets the correct answer. He's up 10-5 over Johnson. Johnson, this next question is back to you. During his freshman season, how many games did Brent start at WVU? Was it 3, 15, 22, or 26?
Again, this is tough. I'm gonna go with 15 games.
No, that's incorrect. Not his freshman season. Scoot, back to you for this 10 points in the steal. Was it 3, 26 or 22?
I'm going to say it's on the high end. I'm going to venture to guess. I'm trying to think in a typical season. I'm going to say 26.
That's correct. 26, all of them. Every single one of them he started that year. 26, that's 10 points for you, Scoot, on the steal, and you now
I think I know him better
5.
than you, Johnson.
I'm so distraught right now. I'm trying not to think about
I'm
it.
just saying it's kind of embarrassing for you.
This was in your wheelhouse, son.
It should be, yes.
Yeah. Woo!
Oh, that's all we need is more confidence for Scoot. Yeah.
Yes. All right, Scoot, good steal, and this next question is back to you.
All right.
During his career at WVU, what did Brent have more of total? All right. Did he have more blocks, steals, 3-pointers, or free throw percentage? What was a higher total number?
Oh, I'm gonna say blocks.
Sorry, that's incorrect. It is not blocks. Johnson, for 10 points and the steal, is it steals, 3-pointers, or free throw percentage?
Career.
Yeah, during his career. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go free throw percentage.
That's incorrect. It's actually steals. Had more steals during his career than free throw percentage or blocks. I've got it according to...
How many steals did Brent have?
According to sportsreference.com, total steals, 79.
Oh, okay.
Total blocks, 64.
All right. I pegged him for not as many steals.
Brett, did you think, when he said free throw percentage, what did you think?
I thought for sure it was not steals. I would have picked steals as my last.
Mr. Greedy.
Obviously, I don't know my stats that well. I know when I graduated, I was 10th all time in block shots, which now is, way lower since then. But I would not have gotten that question. That would actually be the first one I would not have gotten right.
You're here's a couple of little stats. We should have done this early off. You're 5th all time in field goal percentage.
Yep.
In there, and you're 19th right now all time in blocks.
Okay.
Now they grow them like 7 foot all over the place.
Yes, they do.
All right. So going into final bluff here, guys. Scoot, you have a lead over Johnson, 25-5. We're always at this winner-take-all situation here, guys. And so 25 points gets you the right answer on this one. As we always do, guys, we'd like to have you have your own buzzer. Scoot, what's your buzzer this week?
Clank.
Clank. Off the rim. All right. Johnson, what do you got for a buzzer this week?
98.
98. Thinking about that Sweet 16 team. All right, here we go, guys. Final question, final bluff for the win. Brent famously also tried to be a punter for WVU in the 98 with the 98 football team, but it didn't work out. What future XFL NFL kicker did the punting for the 1998 WVU football team? Was it Mike Vanderjack, Jay Taylor, Todd James, or Mark Fazzolari?
Clank.
All right, Scoot. You think you got this?
I'm gonna go Mike Vanderjack.
Sorry, that's incorrect. Johnson for 25 points and the win. Was it Jay Taylor, Todd James, or Mark Fazzolari?
I'm trying to think so hard of time. I'm gonna go with Taylor.
That's correct. Jay Taylor was the punter on that team. 25 points. Johnson gets the win. 30
And I redeemed myself on Solheim trivia. This happiest moment ever of this podcast.
It's a false
Oh
win.
man, hey, I wanted to play the 98 football season. After I had 2 punts in the spring game, I averaged 40.5 after taking off 4 years of football. But I told I was going to tell Nealon that I wanted to play tight end. I wanted to see if I could, I'd have to put on some weight, in 4 or 5 months, whatever, and I would end up backing up Anthony Beck. Of course, I'm not going to beat him out of his position, but he said that I was welcome to play football in the fall, but I would have to pay for my own school. If I didn't, basketball, since my eligibility was over with basketball could still pay for my school. But if I wanted to play football, I would have to pay for my own school. And I said, I'm good. But it's just funny that I felt like, hey, I'll earn it by playing in the fall. But they're like, no, you can't, because other schools would bring people in under different teams and then have them play or whatever. So I was just like,
okay.
Thank you for the opportunity, but I'm going to continue to go to school for free.
You could have been the next Antonio Gates.
Yeah, I doubt that. But I did have the opportunity. I could have played, but I would have just had to pay for my own school that fall, and I wasn't going to do that.
Well, that's crazy. I'm a little ticked that I lost. Not going to lie.
I'm so pumped. You were so close. I thought you had it.
Listen, it's not. I'm not going to accept it as a win until it's certified.
It's true.
I need this win to be certified before I accept it as a win.
We'll get it up and make sure we get it certified.
Can we get somebody to tally the points again for me, please?
Congratulations, Johnson.
Yes.
You now have stressed your lead back over Scoot, 14 games to 11, but there's still time left, Scoot. Don't fret.
My most proud BTF win ever in the books, Scoot.
Oh, my God. Weakest, maybe.
Brent, thank you so much, man. It was awesome having you on this week.
Hey, thank you, guys. I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Yeah, we'll have you back a couple times this season, talk about some basketball and hear what's going on. So, well, listen, everybody, we take a break. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about this week's WVU football matchup against Oklahoma. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Got Your Eers On.
Tactical Legion Knives, a West Virginia owned and operated company that specializes in heavy-duty tactical knives and gear for the professional warrior, the weekend warrior, and the outdoor warrior. Our products are built tough. For who? For warriors. Hey Mountaineer fans, make sure you go on Amazon and search Tactical Legion Knives, and when you do, make sure you put in the promo code 25TOBRADIO for Tob Radio. You'll get 25% off on Tactical Legion Knives.
Thanks to Brent Solheim for joining us. It's going to be great having him on the show this season. Guys, have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll be back next week. Don't forget, find us on Instagram and Twitter at Got Your Ears. You can also look for us on Facebook and check out our website, gotyourearson.com. Everybody, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with another show. You've been listening to Got Your Eers On.